North Carolina and Wake Forest. This is the ACC tournament, Riley. Like this is finally starting to feel like the old school ACC tournaments, the ones that we grew up with, where you rolled the TVs into the classroom and you watched.
Mhm.
Cal Stanford's nice. This is the core of the traditional ACC. Should be a fun matchup though. First time they played this season. Wake Forest won by one, 67-66. I believe that is the only time they've played this season, if I remember correctly. That is.
You're correct. Yep.
So could you get another barn burner in this game? UNC coming off of the victory over Notre Dame, very convincing. Does the fact that they played in that game give them an advantage in this one? What do you see being the major deciding factor on this one?
With UNC, I wouldn't think too much about their tired legs going into this one. I don't know how much of a factor that weighs in when, these players are in fantastic shape. Maybe even knocking off a little rust. Like Carolina had a couple of like slogs they got through in that Notre Dame game. Maybe that is an advantage to them. I ultimately think it comes down to how is UNC going to shoot three.
Mhm.
Wake Forest gives up a ton of threes, but teams don't shoot particularly well on them. I think they're really physical around the basket with both Trevon Spillers and Efton Reed to where they make points in the paint tough to come by. The game in Wake Forest earlier this year, UNC shot 25% as a team, 8 for 32, and one of those threes was kind of a garbage time three by RJ, like when they were down four with I want to say under 3 seconds left, and RJ hit one on like a baseline out of bounds or sideline out of bounds to that ultimately made the margin one. Kind of was a meaningless shot to whereas even when you look at that, it's those the I wouldn't say they really shot they did not shoot well as a team that game. 1 for 11 combined from Ian Jackson, Drake Powell. Those two, you want to
Mhm.
probably get like three or four combined made threes from them in this one to give yourself a chance.
Yeah, Ian Jackson. That was during the stretch where he was started bigging off.
Hmm.
And when he is playing well, we've seen the level it can take North Carolina too. But Wake Forest is kind of the same thing with Hunter Salas, right? Like they don't shoot the three very well for as many threes as they shoot themselves. They don't have a lot of offensive scoring depth. They need Salas to be the guy, and then maybe Cam Hildreth gives you something, Trayvon Spillers gives you something.
Hmm.
But like the to me, the needle Wake Forest has to thread offensively every game is much smaller than North Carolina, even if North Carolina's a little bit limited themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying for sure.
Do you think we get a good game from Hunter Salas in this one?
Oh man,
Because Drake Powell is going to be on him.
yeah. Like if when you look at the matchup of this team, so if you're putting Drake Powell on Salas to start the game, I think like UNC matches up pretty well on the perimeter. I think you can put RJ on Cam Hildreth and not worry too much about him. Hildreth is like what are his percentages on the year? He's a
Not great.
33% 3-point shooter, only 29 makes. Somehow he's made 111 two-pointers. That's more than I would have expected, to be honest. He's just someone who I'm not a fan of his game at all. I know he gets to the line a good bit. He just feels like gimmicky to me. And they're going to need they're just going to need a good Cam Hildreth game, I think, to come out on top of this one. So I do like UNC's chances there, but I think, if Cadeau's on Tyler Johnson or you have RJ on Cam Hildreth or Ian on Cam Hildreth and Drake on Hunter Salas. That bodes favorably for the Tar Heels. Just looking on like sort of the heater that Drake Powell has been on defensively. I thought he was by far and away UNC's best defensive
Mhm.
player against Duke. He's the only one who's like disruptive with his length and his hands. Yeah, and I think he'll keep Salas from like getting into the paint at will.
If we go back to the first matchup, and this is an area with North Carolina that's always of importance, I think, is the interior and the glass, right? Because the front court is the weak link for this team. In that
Hmm.
first matchup, they got out rebounded by 8 by the Demon Deacons. Efton Reed had 12 and 6. Not a huge game, but one of his better games of the season. Trevon Spillers added 9 boards. Salas added 9 boards. You had guys get second chances. They had 10 offensive rebounds in that game that helped with Wake Forest poor shooting night that
Hmm.
UNC did not get. Like to me, that's a matchup I'll be watching too. Now, Dylan Washington started that game, only played 11 minutes, and then they kind of tried to piece things together from there. Then Alan Lubin and Jalen Withers were UNC's two leading scorers and two most productive players against Notre Dame. Notre Dame, Wake Forest, two very different teams and very different levels. But I think you need a strong front court performance from North Carolina if they are going to win this game.
I agree with you completely. Spillers was the best player. It looked like the best player on the court against UNC that game. I think his numbers were modest, 12 and 9, but he had 4 blocks. It felt like anytime RJ or Elliott got into the paint into the and tried to get to the hoop that game, that they were met at the rim by Spillers. I like that at least like Withers can counter some of that size. He should help on the glass. He can seal his man to open up driving lanes. And even just the way he's been shooting the ball. I mean, he just knocked down 7 threes against Notre Dame and it's like shot, I don't have the percentages in front of me, but it shot very well over the past month and a half. Spillers isn't going to be able to camp out in the paint like he was in that game. In your, so I think that bodes favorably for UNC. I think they're the more talented team. I've been critical of Hubert Davis. I think they're the better coach team. I like Hubert over Forbes. It's probably going to be close. It's usually close when UNC and Wake play in this current iteration of the Tar Heels, as in like the past 4 seasons.
Mhm.
Don't get me started on that. We should not be, I'll save my rant for later. But I like UNC to come out on top in a close one.
Yeah, Ken Palm does as well. He has them winning 77 to 72 over the Demon Deacons. Do you think it's bigger than that? Closer than that?
That feels about right to me, honestly, like a 5 point win for UNC. Let me see Carolina break 80, though. We said this on another recap. No team in the ACC tournament has broken 80 points in regulation. UNC got close. They were Ralph, they were the first team to break 70 in regulation. Let's go, hang the banner. But yeah, we let me get
ACC
like
basketball.
let me you know what? Let me stick out my chest a little bit. UNC wins this game 85-76, a 9 point emphatic win. Big 9 points over the Wake Forest Demon Deacons.
I think North Carolina wins as well. I think the crowd is going to be as live as we've seen it in this tournament in Charlotte. I think that's gonna be heavy North Carolina backed, and I think we see that play a big role. The fact we just saw UNC's front court do really well, I think means something in this game. And North Carolina has also played really well of late, right? They've won 7 of the last 8 games. The only loss was to Duke, and they had the lead in the second half of that game. Like I think the Heels have turned a corner and are playing better. You could argue that what their ceiling is, but I don't think you can argue the floor they're playing to right now. I think that floor is above Wake Forest, so I'll take the Heels as well. I like 9. I think somewhere like 7. We'll split the difference between Ken Palm and you. 7 sounds fine. A couple possession games, some free throws at the end. We'll go there, but I don't think you're sweating this too much if you're a Tar Heels fan.